a number of you have referred to a private school education as an investment. I've not always been known to be very good with my own money, but I can tell you that I know that when you make an investment, you want to see a return on that investment, right? And you want to, so I guess I'd like to push you, the panelists here, a little bit about concretely what is the added value of a private education. Very anecdotally, as I mentioned, I went to Princeton University. Most of the Canadian students, the vast majority, were from private schools in Canada, and but at the same time, parents that send their kids to private schools are overwhelmingly well educated. They are more likely to be legacy parents. So it's not clear to me that that's not just a selection mechanism at play. So I don't know if any of you could try to make the case that there's really a concrete return on investment here.
I won't challenge your economics because you're doing your PhD in it. So, however, I don't think you're going to get a quantifiable number of return. I've invested $100,000 in, or whatever it is, $200,000 in private education for my child up into university, and I want to see an 8% per year return. So I want to see $500,000 back. You're not going to see that kind of return. I think the return is your child's satisfaction in their life, their happiness, their success when they do move on into university, which I think the transition to university is very difficult for a lot of people. The dropout rate at U of T is somewhere around 30% or 40%. Are my students dropping out? Are the students from these schools dropping out? I don't know. I can't speak for other schools, but I can say that it's very rare. And it might happen, or they might change program, but it's not that common. And I think that's a huge return on investment. If your child goes off to post-secondary education and is successful there, and is able to thrive in the post-secondary environment and be involved because they were involved in high school and they want to continue that involvement in their community, not just in the classes, that's a massive return. It's not an economic return. Well, maybe it is. If they go off and become the next Facebook, then you're going to get a return, and hopefully they share it. But the reality is, those are few and far between. At UTS, we keep saying we need someone to go and start a new Facebook, but the reality is, you're not going to get a number. You're going to. It's the success that they have when they move forward out of your home and into their adult life. We're raising adults, and all of us who are parents and all of us who are teachers are raising adults. And if they're successful there, then that's your return on investment. You're not going to get a number unless they pay you back. I keep telling my kids they're going to pay me back.
Where you might find a number, just to add, is when you look at the scholarships that they're awarded to the students who come from independent schools. So for TFS last year, we had 54 graduates were offered over $800,000 worth in scholarship money. So certainly I think they're well positioned. They are really courted candidates by a number of universities. And the scholarship applications, we have, certainly at TFS, two very knowledgeable university relations officers, and we guide our students through the scholarship application process. Every university will tell you there's scholarship money that is sitting there that often is not used because people don't apply. And so that whole process, I think university applications are almost like a full-time job. It really is consuming, and if you don't understand the process and you aren't guided through that, then you're not going to benefit from the scholarship money. So that's, if you're looking for a quantifiable piece, plus the dropout rate, I would say those two, in addition to the non-tangibles, the skills that they have, their confidence, their development as an individual, their exposure to varieties of thought, of thinking, and their ability to be successful and to contribute and be meaningful, lead meaningful lives in a very chaotic, crazy world right now. So I think those are all very valuable.
A lot of what we're saying here too, there has to be someone interacting with your children to provide the opportunity to grow, to be nurtured, to win these scholarships. In if you're able to quantify something, it's because somebody helped you along to the moment where the quantifiable moment occurred. If the question becomes, here's what I'm paying, what are you doing with it? So here's my $28,000. What are you doing with it? I think you'll find from everyone in the room that the vast majority of that is going into people. We're investing in the good and the right people. And it's these people that interact, faculty, whoever it's going to be, primarily faculty, obviously, will interact with your son or daughter, and they'll make a connection, and they'll role model the things that you want, and they'll go on to find a passion in themselves, and they'll become creative or they'll become innovative because someone believed in them, spent time with them, that individual moment, and then suddenly these things that blossomed out of them because of that positive interaction has won them an award. And then you quantify it. But in the absence of that, there's so much in between. And you will find that the fees that you will pay to an independent school, at least certainly I know from sitting on the finance committee at my own school, I know what percentage is going towards faculty salary, and it is the vast majority, because we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to put the right people in front of in our case, the boys, in your case, your children, so that opportunity is maximized for all those things to happen so that the quantifiable moment occurs.
Within being in an independent school and having that kind of positive educational experience, where, as Chris said, you have someone who sees that strength and sees that spark and says, okay, let's develop that. And you've got good university counselors, and you've got all the support, and you've got the co-curriculars, and your children see that learning is interesting and wonderful, and the growth and the internal payback for just the success within school creates a lifelong love of learning. And when you have a lifelong learner, you're more likely to have children who are looking at postgraduate programs, professional postgraduate programs, and again, that's where you can maybe start looking at a quantifiable return, that if you've got someone who is happy in school, who has the skills to succeed in school, and transfers that into their undergraduate program, and then they can succeed as they go into the postgraduate, more likely to have a higher salary, a longer career, stronger career, and then you can start getting in some numbers, and you could crunch those better than I.
In addition, my colleagues haven't mentioned the connections that your children will make through their life, as far as their classmates, the alumni connections when it comes to doing business, when it comes to networking in the future. We have alum that come back to the school and are mentors for our current students, and helping them get a foothold and a start on knowing what the career interests are, and that is also quite a very valuable connection that you would be investing in for your children.
Just add one additional point. We've talked a little bit about the return on investment in terms of university or post-secondary education placement. And again, the school's records will be 100% from one year to the next. And I don't know what the numbers are in your publicly funded schools, but 100% placement, university typically, and program of choice from these schools. Return on investment in terms of value, I mean, we ask our families to measure the return on investment every year. We ask them to re-enroll at our schools, and that's a process that we go through on an annual basis. And no doubt moms and dads are going to sit down and talk about whether or not they feel that the money that they are investing in the school and in their child, there is a return, whether that's happiness, joy, A+, 4 goals on the soccer pitch, however it looks like. Before they sign that re-enrollment contract, they're going to ask those questions and go through that process. The average retention rate at a good school is probably in excess of 92, 93, 94%. The other 6 or 7%, probably 5 of that is relocation is financial hardship. Maybe it's 1% that are coming to the conclusion that the return on the investment isn't there. All right? ROI is what we call it at our school. And 1% is not too bad, right? 93, 94%, 1,000 families at our school every year routinely ask these questions. Do I see return in my investment? And it looks very different when the child's 4 and when the child's going off to the university of their choice. But again, success rates of 93, 94% tell me that we're doing a good job and that our families are happy with that investment, that there is indeed value in the investment, however that value looks.